What's up, everybody? I'm very excited to be hanging out with one of my really good friends, Phil Shoemaker, and we're going to be talking about something today that I'm super stoked about, and it's something that every single one of us, me included, every single one of you watching, whether you're in mortgage, whether you're in real estate, title, insurance, we're talking about something that has truly, this should be something, and Phil and I were just talking before we went live, that is absolutely, this should be forefront. And with something that Home Point Financial has just rolled out, again, we're going to get into more of the details here in just a second. But before we get into that, Phil, we've had you on the show before. You're one of the absolute leaders. I don't want to just say leader, you're an influencer. You're one of the guys who is truly revolutionizing. You're a thought leader. You're a provoker. Plus, you're actually in the trenches taking action. You're not just one of the executives sitting back on their ass, just enjoying the ride. You're in it. You're going to events. You're speaking. You're engaged with everything that you're doing. So I really appreciate you taking some time to hang out with me this afternoon, man.
Always enjoy it, man. Your energy level is unmatched. I'm jealous. I don't know how you do it.
Dude, well, you know me. I'm enthusiastic. I love this industry that we're in. And plus, honestly, there's not enough enjoyment. We've got to enjoy what we're doing.
I agree.
Passionate about it. And you're one of those guys too that you laugh a lot. You enjoy what you're doing. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of talk in the industry, which is exactly why I want to dive into this, because there's a lot of talk around, hey, how do I go out and create new opportunity? How do I go out and create new leads, new business? And so often we forget about those transactions and those people, not just transactions, but clients for life. These are our customers for life. We're so like on to the next transaction, and we forget about those people that we just helped achieve the dream of owning a home. And something that you guys are doing at Home Point Financial is starting to change that narrative. Is really starting to get people to kind of look back and be like, wait a minute, am I stepping over dimes? Am I stepping over dollars to pick up dimes? So let's talk about that. You guys are customer for life. And last time we had you on the show, we kind of mentioned it, but now you guys you're starting to roll it out. And it's not full go 100% right now. It's still kind of in beta stages, but we're talking some numbers and we're talking some pretty cool stuff. So before we get into numbers, tell us a little bit about why Customer for Life. Why did you guys come up with this? Why is this so important, especially to the modern day mortgage professional, real estate professional?
Yeah, so I mean, it starts with first kind of understanding the underlying economics that drive mortgage banking are heavily biased by servicing, right? Because the just like any business, what you're doing is you're paying money to acquire a customer, right? And then the long-term economics that you're able to generate, the sustainable economics you're able to generate as a business, is dependent upon your ability to retain that customer. Right. And mortgage is really interesting because you have so many people that are involved in that process. I think that over the years, it's become maybe somewhat murky as to whom that customer belongs to. And I think, by the way, that's the flaw that most people make to start, is the customer really doesn't belong to anyone, right? It's really about the customer's choice. And so what is unique about Home Point, what we're doing, why I'm extremely excited to be here, is that one, we view the broker, right? So the distributed independent originator as our network of originators, right? So if you think about, how you grow a mortgage bank, it really is about getting people out in the field and to have connections with referral partners, especially around the purchase side, because that's the sustainable part of the business. There's companies out there that have chosen to do that through distributed retail, and they're really good at it. And it's our belief, though, that right now the broker and the independent originator is a better execution for the borrower in an expanding part of the market. And so our strategy has been, hey, we're going to align with that side of the market. We're going to use the independent originator as our distributed network, and we're going to create a mechanism between the servicing side that's married with the front end origination, such that we can help assist in making that broker more effective, that independent originator more effective at retaining our mutual customer. Because that's the piece that people don't see when you look at large scale consumer direct companies and how effective they are at retaining. So at the end of the day, every loan that's originated, someone ends up buying that servicing somewhere, right? And that servicing will stay on that company's books anywhere from 5 to 7 years. And so you see predominantly in wholesale right now, most wholesalers are selling off the servicing. And in some cases, they're getting some sort of, non-solicit for 18 months or 12 months or whatever, which sounds nice, right, to the broker. But the reality is customers don't pay off, on average until year 5 to 7. And
so
the challenge.
Before we get in, I want to ask this, because a lot of people don't understand this. Why the selling and servicing? And you and I we literally talked about this last time. Is servicing isn't sexy. This is the side of our business, and most consumers just go way the hell over their head. But even to us as originators, like, why is it being sold? Like 5 to 7 years, is that a long time? Is that average? Why is that important actually?
Well, the reason why servicing is being sold is because it's extremely capital intensive to retain the servicing on a loan. So I'll give you a scenario. Let's take a normal conventional loan, like a $200,000 conventional loan. The servicing will trade as a multiple on the projected cash flow of that loan. And so the servicing revenue that the servicer gets on an annual basis is 25 basis points. And the multiples are probably somewhere around 4, meaning when me as the servicer, when I buy that servicing, I'm paying 4 times 25 basis points. I'm paying a point of cash.
Wow.
Right? So I'm putting $200,000 loan. I'm putting $2,000 of cash into that deal that I don't make back until that loan is paid for 48 months. And then at that point, the servicer starts to make money. And that's kind of how these multiples work, is they're based on the expected duration of the asset, which will run somewhere between 5 and 7 years. And so there has been an assumption in the industry for years around an expected recapture rate on that and the economics that a servicer can generate. And it's our belief, right? And you look, a consumer direct side, a consumer direct business is really good at recapturing business or refi business, right? A well-run consumer direct shop can recapture a refi on 75%, of the loans that run off. But on a purchase transaction, they're horrible at it. And the reason why is because purchase business, which I believe is the most important segment of the market, is heavily based off physical distribution and people that are out there that have relationships, right? And so getting back to our strategy, it's our belief that if I can marry the retention side with the front end distribution and empower brokers with tools that they wouldn't normally get, that are only available to large scale servicers that have a lot of scale and money, right? If I can empower them in a way that truly makes them effective, right, then the synergy we get and the financial pickup we get in terms of mutual recapture on refi, as well as the purchase I get through that distributed network, is better than what a servicer typically gets off of just focusing on retaining the refi.
Cool. So now you and I were talking about some numbers, and again, I know this is kind of just in beta stages, but I want to talk about it because this is really impressive. So you were sharing some numbers with me before we got on this. Can we talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So unlike, credit triggers convert almost 0% of the time. Yep. By the time someone's responding to a credit trigger, is too late. Payoff triggers definitely too late. MLS triggers too late because the real estate agent's involved. They're going to dictate where the person goes. And so again, the reason why servicers have a built-in advantage is these customers are interacting with us. They're calling us when they have questions on their payments. They're calling us when they have questions on their escrow analysis. And so what we've done in the last 2.5 weeks, in fact, this is the formal coming out of so congratulations, Josh, you get the launch. It's called Customer for Life with HomePoint. And basically what it is when we're having these interactions with the customers, based on the data we have access to, we are asking them, hey, or in many cases, they're asking us, hey, I'd like to look at refinancing my loan. Or we're saying, hey, it looks like you're in the money for a refi. And we say, look, we'd like to connect you with the originating business partner, right, that we acquired the loan from. And so far, this is just in the last 2.5 weeks, by the way, we've sent back about 70 borrowers to their original broker. And if you look at the pipeline that's generated, that's going to result in maybe 30 fundings or so over the next month. And that, again, just in the first 2.5 weeks. And so that's what I'm trying to encourage people to see. That's a real strategy, right? That can create a customer for life, as opposed to sending these fictitious triggers that ultimately don't generate. It's the marriage between what's happening and the interactions you have on the servicing side. It's the marriage of that back to the originator that we're trying to address.
This is why I think it's really cool, because like you mentioned, big data, that's a whole another conversation, which we might get into here in just a second. But these other these large banks, these large entities, they have the money. They're out there capturing this data. They're spending millions upon millions of dollars to capture this data. And what's so impressive is that HomePoint, I mean, most originators, most who are, even if you're a fairly large or a mid to small, large size company here in the US and you're cranking out some volume, you can't afford to be able to go after. You can't afford to do this. You don't have the technology. You just can't. So the fact that HomePoint, the partners, and again, we're talking about originators here. We're talking about the real estate agents that are working with those originators. This is coming back to you. This is helping you gain those clients. We talk about relationships all the time. It's always about relationship. Being able to have this data and having a partner like HomePoint who's able to bring that back to you is so incredibly powerful. We're always asked, it's a conversation that comes up all the time. How can I be better at recapturing? How can I work better with my past clients? And this is just one of those opportunities, Phil.
That's exactly right. And that is, I think, where the market has been underserved for so many years, is there's been too much of a focus on this is mine, this is yours. Ooh. And so what you see predominantly is the companies that are capitalized to acquire servicing, are heavily dependent on the additional economics they're able to generate by having their own internal recapture or consumer direct shop that's refining that book at a certain amount, which again, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad strategy financially. It might, and in many cases does make a lot of sense. I'm just saying, I believe that there's a better way, and the better way in my mind is, look, focus matters, right? So if you're trying to be everything to everyone, oftentimes you end up being kind of subpar at everything. And what we're focused on here is really two things. We want to provide the best possible service to the independent originator, and we want to provide the best possible servicing experience to the customers that they're trusting us to service, such that we can mutually benefit from the retention of that customer, since we work so hard to get them in the first place.
I love it. So if you're joining us here live right now, I want you to comment #HomePoint, because HomePoint is doing some great things. Yeah. So whether you're joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, we're across all channels, guys. Big shout out to our friends at Social Live for being able to post this throughout this distribution of media and content. I'm so excited about, because again, now I get to have a guest on like Phil, that we're talking about something that is impacting all of our business, every single one of us that's in the mortgage, real estate, and that industry. This is helping us. And that's why I think these relationships, Phil, again, we talk about big banks, we talk about big lenders. There are some of them who are doing it so well, and HomePoint, again, is one of them. We continue to see that focus come back on like you said, the independent originator. Those who are out there, they've dedicated their lives, their careers, their focus to this trade, and they just need they need help. They can't do it alone. The independent originator cannot compete with, we won't say any of their names, but some of those big bank shops. They just can't. So that's why somebody like HomePoint and some of these other ones who are, again, collaborating, willing to go back and help the independent originator, that's why I think it's so important. And this idea and this message that we keep talking about is uniting the industry through collaboration. That's why HomePoint's at the front, because you guys are willing to hey, you know what? We are willing to work together, because you see the value in being able to come together and help one another. Oh, we might have lost Phil. We're
only 4 years old.
Oh, there we go. We're back. Now we lost you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, back to now.
What's even better is that we're only 4 years into this, and so HomePoint is a relatively new company, and so what we just rolled out is just the beginning. The next thing that there's an educational factor that I think we need to as a industry, we need to start educating originators on how servicing really works and why these strategies matter, and see, right, like the home situation where originators can focus on just when we know, we see through data, we see through the interaction with that customer that they're ready for their next transaction, and I can connect that customer with the originator, even to the extent where, the next iteration of this is we'll be helping to collect the application details, right? Yep. So again, customers are interacting with this. If I can make it so easy where I'm like just literally serving up to the originator and saying, look, here's a customer that wants to talk to you. Here's their application detail. They're given their permission, because that's key. It really is about the borrower's intent. And what's funny is when you make it about that, you sort through all the politics that I think people have struggled with over the last 3 years. If you just ask one simple question, hey, do you want to go back to that originator? You find out really what they want to do. And what we're finding predominantly is those borrowers actually prefer the experience they have with the local person in their market that understands their market, that they interacted with when they did their first loan. They prefer that, and so I think that there's something really exciting about what we're doing. And I think collectively, if we continue to work together, the companies that are able to retain servicing and the originators out there, we can make this industry better, and we can create a better experience for our collective borrowers, which is needed.
And I say it's so needed right now. And the fact that you're willing to have those discussions, I know, again, going to events, I've traveled with you to different events. We've spoken at the same events, and you guys are always there collaborating with some of these other companies who have the same mentality. One of my favorite examples to share is when Elon Musk was building Tesla. And if you've ever heard this story, Phil, you've probably heard this story, but when Elon Musk was building Tesla, he recognized that he had something that basically he was creating this category that no one else had, like the electric car that was kind of just like this wild idea, but he was willing to give away his patents to his competitors to be able to, he needed to create, he's like, guys, I'm going to give you my secret recipe. Here you go. I can see the vision of this. But I need your help to build it. I can't do it by myself. And that's why I see companies like yourself, and a few other lenders that are really starting to do this and see this mentality. Because again, when it comes to, at the end of the day, as we're all talking about, it's the consumer, it's the client, it's the relationship that we're all building. And as much, me and Jason yesterday did a live talking about some of these celebrity endorsers, and some of these big companies are paying these celebrity endorsers to go out and say, hey, look at me. Like if you've watched ESPN or if you watch golf at all, I'm a big golf fan. You've seen some of these highlights. But at the end of the day, as much as I love Ricky Fowler, he's not a local mortgage advisor. He's not a local mortgage expert. He doesn't know what you really need when it comes to your mortgage. So I absolutely agree with you, Phil. Being that local advisor, being that local person, and being able to have the resources, the tools, everything you need so you can go and focus on that relationship. That's why the tools and the things that you guys are providing are just so critical to the independent originator.
Well, absolutely. And in fact, you bring that up because that's where the battleground right now that's being fought is not, wholesale or retail. It's a model discussion around what's more effective for the consumer, a distributed model, people out in the field that have relationships, or a centralized, a model. And to your point, there's companies that are clearly on one side of that equation or the other. There's the one that, advertises in the Super Bowl game. And think about that. Think about what that does, right? When you're a broker, right, you originate a loan, you send a company or a loan to a company that is putting commercials on Super Bowl ads out there, that is interacting with that customer. And that customer is ready for their next transaction. Who do you think is top of mind with them 5 or 7 years later? It's probably going to be the company that, they just showed them a commercial with Ricky Fowler endorsing, right? That's what we're trying to get brokers to realize. This really does matter. It totally matters what's happening on the servicing side and who is actually interacting with the customers that you're entrusting with us matters. And if we can, and again, I'm not judging the other model. They've clearly shown it's extremely effective, and these guys are really smart. These are well-run companies. I'm just betting on the other side of it because I think mortgage is still a relationship business. I've bought and sold 5 or 6 homes in my lifetime. I can tell you it's extremely stressful. It's a personal thing, and I personally prefer dealing with people that are local, that understand my market, that understand what I'm going through, what the experience is, and can provide counsel. Right. I think that's the side that's going to win. And so that's the bet we're making, is unlike other companies out there, we are positioned to truly create that connection that is competitive against these large scale consumer direct shops.
And I think it has to be that narrative that you guys that you're creating right now, that vision for the future, it will be. I mean, even millennials, people talk about this all the time. Oh, the millennials, they prefer the online experience. Bullshit. Like, I'm a millennial myself, and I'm a relationship guy. Most of the people that I went to high school with, and that I've done lots of surveys, I've asked lots of people, it is that local person that we can trust. Now, is pricing and our fees, does it play a part? Sure, absolutely. But the majority of it comes, like, I still have people today call me up. Just earlier today, had one of my past clients text me and said, hey, I know it's been a couple of years, but just wondering, like, what are your thoughts on refinancing right now to get rid of MI? Like, they trust us. Like, they really do. We become that trusted person to them because, like you said, buying a home, refinancing, it's an unknown world. It's a fearful world. People don't know. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and people just don't know. Education, you mentioned that earlier, is being able to educate. Being that source of education is critical these days.
It matters, and we want to. I will say, and I implore, like, everyone that's watched this, we want to fight back, right, against this model shift, because I agree. The reason why I'm fighting for it is I think it's the best thing for the consumer. To your point, like, I feel like they get ultimately a better experience, they get better education, they get, in many cases, better price and product. And so, and it's funny if you bring up the millennial things. If you actually look at the data on that, millennials are still disproportionately using people that are local. They're still using agents, as an example. They just demand a more online technical experience. And so people are shopping for their homes or starting by looking online. But if you look at the percentage of people that actually convert to use, I think it's like 86%, off of National Association of Realtors, that are still using a buy-side agent. And so again, what does that tell you? It tells you that physical distribution matters, relationship matters, especially in an industry where it's, love our federal government, but man, they make it complex to originate a loan. And so it's complex, and having someone, an expert that can help navigate that, the complexity, and make sure that you're getting the best value, right, in terms of how you're financing your home, is extremely important. But again, going back to Home Point, if we can marry that with the servicing side, so the way we talk about it is speed, value, and certainty equals trust. And so on the servicing side, we're building out what we call home ownership platform. You'll see more of this launch in October of this year, where we're going to create a unique experience for the borrower, such that if we can build that trust, we can help create that retention, because that consumer is not thinking about the Super Bowl ads. They're thinking about, the person that originated their loan and the person that serviced their loan. And if we're partnered together, that's an unstoppable thing.
Yep, and that's just it. I love how you say it. We've got to be able to fight back. Like, it is almost a fight. We have to be willing to really put our dukes up, and we have to fight for our clients. That's why this customer for life is such a critical piece of what we do. Like, everybody that's watching, everybody that's commenting, we've had a lot of people jump on live comments. And I apologize. We're still working on being able to read the comments. I can see the comments coming in, but we can't see them. We don't know why. So we're going to work on that with Social Live a little bit later. But so for all those who are commenting, we really appreciate it. And we'll make sure we answer those. I want to ask you this, Phil. Technology is a big piece. Like, we've been talking about relationships. Is there any type of fear? Is there anything we should be worried about when it comes to technology? Is technology more of is it a helpful tool going forward, or is it more of a detriment to us in the industry?
I think it's a necessity. I wouldn't say, look, it depends on how you apply it, right? And so I'm a technologist. In fact, I'm an electrical engineer. Oddly enough, I ended up in mortgage banking, but I started out on the technology side. And
somebody probably told you it was a great industry to get into, right? They're like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. Come join us here, dude.
Exactly. It's just a weird thing, I don't know how I got here, but I enjoy it. I'm glad I got here. But what I will say is, like, my first part of my career, I spent a lot of time thinking about how I could automate people's jobs and deploy technology in a way. And it wasn't until I got into the business side, this is maybe 2010, I ran ops for a couple of years, and I realized how personal the mortgage transaction is, and so now the way I approach it, which I believe is right, and you can see it in terms of companies that succeed and fail, is technology is a tool to make people's lives better, right? It's a tool that should be used to make things more efficient. it's not necessarily a replacement for people, especially in mortgage banking, because it is such a personal business. And so I think the companies that will win, and if you look over time, you always see these fads where it's like, companies are coming out with some sort of technical, shiny object that's going to, make digital mortgages are going to make people go away, and you never really see them succeed. Nope. And the reason why you don't see them succeed is because it's a personal business. People value distribution. But I will say that the danger is, if you're not, as a company, I do think, unlike what we've seen in maybe the past 10 years, you are about to see an inflection, really more from a cost structure standpoint, where companies that aren't adopting things like AI and figuring out a way to make their business more efficient, it's going to become harder and harder to compete. And so we're heavily focused. Home Point's only 4 years old, so we're just kind of getting into it. But I spend probably half my day figuring out how to reconnect, servicing customers to the original broker, then the other half, how to streamline the experience in terms of how we originate, and support our brokers in a way that lowers our cost structure while still making sure that we provide the service that they expect. It's hyper competitive. And so it plays a role in that regard in a big way.
And I love that. What's funny, you went from trying to automate people back when you first in your career to really doing the opposite now, being able to combine technology and that human interaction. And now you guys have done it so brilliantly. And that's what Home Point, again, you're a young company. That's what's so exciting to me, is people are like, oh, they're a young company, so, is it something to worry? No, you guys are like crushing it. You guys, again, you're collaborating, you're in the trenches, you're having the discussions, you're looking to the originator for feedback, and you guys just continue to, so I think, surprise everybody. And like, I'm excited to continue to work with you, with the entire team at Home Point, and continue to help you guys absolutely crush it in the industry. So I appreciate you taking a few, we've been talking for almost half hour. Time flies when you're having fun. And I think this is just the beginning. I know Customer for Life with Home Point is just in the beginning phases. I guarantee we're going to have you back on again shortly, talking as we continue to see this, as we continue to see you guys and the Customer for Life program really put loans back in the originator's pipeline. So it's super exciting, lots of fun. And thanks so much for hanging out with us this afternoon, Phil.
Always a pleasure, man. Love your enthusiasm, Josh.
Well, if nothing else, we have a lot of enthusiasm. We have a lot of energy. But again, guys, really appreciate you hanging out with us this afternoon. If you're watching us live, remember to please comment #shred. And if you're watching us on the replay, comment #hustle, because you're out there hustling every single day. So as always, we appreciate you. We love you. You got to show up. You got to hustle. You got to repeat every day. See you soon.